Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today I'm going to recap and give my thoughts on Critical Role Campaign 3, Episode 18. Very short episode. Rather shocked by the length. They've been going 4 hours plus recently. Basically every episode has been 4 hours plus with the exception of one. But this one was 3 hours and 40 minutes, I think, which sure is still basically 4 hours. But it was still shorter, and it caught me off guard that it was as short as it was. There's a few things I'm going to talk about in a little bit more in depth because some of it is stuff that irks me, not about the Critical Role itself, but about, we'll get to it. We start off where the episode last week ended, which was they're about to fight this creature that has sucked Fern in and has started combat. At first there's only I don't break down combat, but I'm going to go over a little bit of some of the opening. There's only 4 people up: Fern, Ashton, Imogen, and Laudna. Fern is currently incapacitated, being drawn toward this tree, and then they roll initiative. Again, not going to break down combat, but they eventually wake everybody else up through some key moments in combat is what I'll do. They are able to kind of surround a little bit, but some people continuously get incapacitated, grabbed by this thing, and then eaten whole. And they're getting critted while this happens. It happens to Ashton right away. And this is their tank. This is their big, beefy resistance guy, and he immediately gets grabbed and eaten. So now he is in this thing's stomach, near death, and it's bad right away for Ashton, who is there. If Fern doesn't use her transformations or her wild shapes, he is the beefiest. And it is very unfortunate that right away he gets crit without being able to rage and giving himself resistance to shit like that. He is in a bad spot right away, and this happens to not just him, but to Laudna and FCG as well throughout the fight. We see Chetney transform again, and this time I think this is the first time he's done it. While in his wolf form, or his werewolf form, his fingernails, or his claws, turn on fire, which is sick. I've always been curious about the Order of the Lycan. I've looked into it a little bit, but I've always wanted to see what it was like in combat, and I'm very excited to see Chetney doing it. We also learned something about FCG's moveset. He is able to tether with somebody, and if they are a trusted ally or a trusted friend, I forget the exact wording, he's able to basically give them a guidance of a D6, which is friggin' nuts. That is pretty good. It can still roll a 1, obviously, but that's 6 added on top of whatever she needs to do. That's pretty good. Laudna. Yeah, Laudna gets fucked in this combat. She gets knocked out cold at one point, but due to her ability, she's able to get back up right away, basically. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about just a little bit more in depth. She got incapacitated, crit, and swallowed in one attack from this thing, or it's 2 attacks from this thing. And this, I watch Critical Role on YouTube. I try to avoid the mostly toxic Twitch chat that are all rules lawyery and get really upset when someone doesn't play by the rules. They don't like the rule of cool. They like the rule of the book. And I had to look at the Twitch chat during this moment because what happened was she took the damage from the acid, went unconscious, and Matt decided to have her roll to see if she would take a death save that turn. Which is odd, because it's at the start of her turn, she gets knocked out, that's the end of her turn. And then the next turn you're supposed to do the death save throw. But he knocked her out as if it was before her turn, and then her turn happened, which I can see the whole thing. And I had to look to see if people were mad about this, because I just know that that's one of those rules lawyery things where people are going to be like, you should have waited for the next turn. Granted, regardless of that next turn, it's more than likely that same thing would have happened. She crawled out, and was able to like wake back up with her whatever her abilities are for her being a hollow one, and then she crawled out of the thing. That being said, I don't hate what Matt did. He elected to just get it out of the way right now because he acted as if the damage happened like in between turns. Like it hit her and then her turn started, which I don't hate. I wouldn't have done that as a DM. I would have had her take the damage, go out out cold, fuck, and then next turn death saving throw, she gets out. I don't hate what Matt did. I'm not against it at all. He is his DM. It's his table, the rule of cool, and it was really cool for her to go down, get up, and get the fuck out of that thing. So if you're someone who is against that and like should have been more by the book, let me know. I want to know what your opinion is on that down below. So yeah, eventually they kill this thing and they use fire to kill it, and then after combat's done, they kind of see it like sort of regenerating, so they just beat the fuck out of it with more fire, and eventually they find the heart and they're able to crush it and destroy it. They then take their rest. Finally, after combat's done, they sleep in a little bit longer due to this combat. And afterwards, as they're ready to leave, Chetney investigates a fungus or a mushroom and touches it and sort of takes some poison damage and gets a little drunk, which is kind of funny. I don't remember if they took it or not. I doubt it. They later, as they were traveling onto Heartmoor, came across a ruin of, pre-calamity. It was that old, and like Orem being a little bit a historian, I guess. I think he said he was proficient in it. They kind of looked at it, saw important writing or some sort of writing on an archway and took it. This pre-calamity wall, effectively, is what they found. They're kind of intrigued by it. They don't know what it is exactly or what its importance is. But basically, Matt gives a lore dump about the area. And the reason the way it is because of a big scratch or claw across the world that a god did. Like, he attacked this portion of the world and basically destroyed it. And now the Heartmoor, the Ordean Wilds are the way they are, which is rather interesting. More and more you learn. I'm excited for whatever Marquette book they come out with to sort of give a bit more background on these areas. After that, as they're riding, they kind of come across a group of people on horseback or in a carriage, kind of going the opposite way. They're kind of suspicious of them, so they kind of interact funny with them and give them some space. They basically tell them to avoid any fairies, and the guy's like, the fuck does that mean? Or, sorry, avoid fake fairies is what they said. And he, reacted in kind. On their last sort of stretch of travel, they run into another group of people, probably, I think Matt said about 2 hours out of Heartmoor. And they run into another sort of traveling group with a silver dragonborn named Hutchin. They talk with this silver dragonborn for a bit. This dragonborn has a crew with her of, a furbolg, I think it was a cat person. I'm trying to remember if that was what it was exactly. And I can't remember the fourth one, but there was 4, I believe. And the furbolg basically it was a female Pumat Soul. Like, the voice was just basically Pumat Soul but female, and it was friggin' hilarious. And as a Canadian, I do not accept that Pumat Soul is what Canadians sound like. Some of us, but not all of us. Unless you guys all think I sound like Pumat Soul. In which case, whatever, I'll take it. But FCG tries to read one of their minds and doesn't want to get too deep, but they kind of FCG picks up that the person they're reading the mind of is like sort of, they want space between them and the group. They're like, I don't trust these people. We shouldn't be talking with them like this. It's at this point they start theorizing that these people might be their opposition for the heist they're going to be committing eventually. And they elect that they'll walk in tandem toward Heartmoor because Hutchin reveals that they are going the same way. They're also going to Heartmoor, and Chetney, being a little bit untrustworthy, elected to insight check to see if they changed where they were going to follow them, to be like sort of, she just said that to, make it seem like they were going the same way or something, or whatever. And it's revealed that no, that they were always going that way, or it seems that they were always going to go that way. So they're about 60 feet apart as they travel. They make the rest of their way to Heartmoor, where they finally come to this city within the swamp. They find bed and board and bed, however you say it. They get an inn. They pay for it. They have a nice conversation with the halfling that's there, who has really short legs, and he kind of gives them sort of directions to the Twilight mansion and to Estani's mansion or manor. I forget the name of that one. But they elect to go to the Twilight mansion first. And throughout their travel here, as they've been talking to a handful of NPCs, they sort of learn that this place isn't looked on very highly of the regular people here. And they keep getting, oh, you're going there? Why are you going there? That sort of look. And even the inn owner, who they were speaking to before, was like, I hope you didn't come all the way out here just for that. Which is a very intriguing way to sort of introduce this highly defensible, impenetrable heist sort of place. And very intrigued to see how much of a joke or how serious this place actually is based on everybody's opinions. So they make their way to the Twilight Museum, where they kind of find your typical haunted house looking place with a iron fence that comes to a gate. It seems that there's been a lot of overgrowth, and some of the growth has died, and it's just been unkept and not clean. And within this swamp, it's kind of dingy and gross. It looks like at certain points, as they look at this place that looks like it's trying to be a castle, as Matt described it, some of it is beginning to sink in, as it is one of the few 3-story buildings in this marshland city. As usually people have learned, if you have more than one story on a building, it tends to get taken by the ground. And this place seems to be firmly against that idea and is 3 stories high in certain spots. They find a bell on the gate and try to use the bell to sound off that someone's there. Ashton, or a group of them, see somebody kind of open the blinds and then close it, and Ashton says, give it 60 seconds. These people like to be, extra like that. And then 60 seconds roughly go by, he rings the bell again, and basically a couple seconds after that, as if he should have waited a few more seconds, 2 guards come out who are kind of half-dressed, trying to get themselves all together and presented, followed by what appears to be a half-elf. As Matt said, he either said it was an elf or a half-elf. It's hard to make out which exactly. Long and gaunt and sort of, thin, wearing a super gaudy, silvery glitter robe, which, with the very limited sunlight, still gives off a glitter sort of shine to it. And he sort of gives off a, presenter-like, welcome to my museum. And it was at this point that I wish that they had just lied and said we're here for the tour, because they instead choose to reveal that they are the people for Jenna Huxham's heist. They're her team. And he goes, oh shit, I'm not going to give you a tour because you're not supposed to know. Thank you for showing up. I'll call you in a day and a half. He basically said midnight the following day is when they're going to meet up, discuss what is going to be stolen from the museum, and that they're the first people to arrive, which gives a little bit more credence to the fact that maybe Hutchin, the person behind them, this Silver Dragonborn, might be the other group. Also, the person's name here is Evon Hytrego. Some of these names, man. I gotta hear him to be able to say them again. Let's just go with Evon. Or Evan. Oh, fuck. I'm not gonna get these names. I gotta hear it a few more times. He says, come back at midnight the next night so that they can start the heist. After that, they go to Estani's place, or make their way there. And they get there. Orem knocks or uses the knocker to open it. It takes a minute because there's a few locks on this door, and they are greeted by a half orc, half elf person, similar to some of the similar to Preo in earlier episodes at the Soot and Swill manor. Astani, a male, half orc, half elf, sort of opens the door and kind of looks at them. A little like, "Why are you here?" sort of deal happens. Orem drops Oshad's name, and Astani was like, "Oh, you guys are friends. Come in," and that is kind of where the episode ends. As according to Matt, the conversation with Astani can either be super long or super short, which tells me that this character might be a little sensitive to things, and if they get a little pissed off or a little annoyed, they might just shut off altogether and not give them any information, which would kind of suck. And I'm also really, really excited for this heist now because Matt has done a very good job of building up that this place is kind of lame or kind of weird or different, which in that swamp town, of course, it's going to be looked down as weird or strange or lame because it doesn't fit the general theme of the place, which is, to be a bit smaller, quiet, and not gaudy and loud and different. So I'm very excited to see what this sort of Twilight museum looks like. I'm excited for the heist. There were no really big character reveals. It seems that they've elected that they're not going to play that hand again. They're going to just wait off until a bit later, or at least some of the players elected not to, because they already dropped 2 bombs for Orem and Laudna last week. So you never know. I would like this heist to happen next week. I don't think it will. I think next week is going to be more about the Lumos twins. So I'm excited to hear a bit more detail from what happened to the Lumos twins and what exactly they were doing in Heartmoor. So that's episode 18. Like I said earlier, it was shorter. We had some rule lawyering debacle. I never even said what the people on the Twitch were saying, and there wasn't very many people upset about that ruling. It was, you would get one every once in a while, like, that's not how that rule is supposed to work, and then everyone else just seemed cool with it. So I'm hoping the toxicity of Twitch has disappeared, but I highly doubt it. So anyway, that was episode 18. It was a good episode, very fun. Yeah, good episode. Sweet. See you guys Tuesday.